Welcome to Fast Effect Doublespeed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games Discord as we continue playing through this whole shutdown via Discord from the comfort of our homes, or in my case, from the shop. Nicholas on Most, a deck using Fauna Shaman, largely to bring back Elish Norn. And Heather, I believe, is going to be on Goblin. She has a few things built here. We'll see if she's on Phoenix or Goblins. And Nick leading out with a Noble Hierarch. A solid start, looks like off of a Bayou. And will Heather have Goblin Lackey, Aether Vial? Is she not on Goblins? The suspense will soon dissipate. Here we go. Cavern of Souls for an Aether Vial. So it is not uncounterable, but most not going to have access to Force of Will. So these two decks are going to be looking to assemble some unbeatable board presences. We've got that Fauna Shaman. A Munitions Expert would be very welcome here. We'll see if Heather has the one-drop Goblin to go along with it. She needs like a Lackey and a Munitions Expert. She's got the mana kind of solved here. She's got a Skirk Prospector. And there he is, Munitions Expert, showing up, doing what he does, uncounterably killing this Fauna Shaman. Got some Savannas adding to Nick's mana base. 4 mana to play with. Noble Hierarch for a shiny, looks like Deputy of Detention. Going after that Aether Vial. Looking to slow down Goblins. Aether Vial can do a lot of heavy lifting, particularly in Goblins. Out of all of the tribal decks, Goblins has kind of the widest range of mana costs. Really quality cards to put in at 1, 2, 3, 4, and currently 6 mana once you get up to Muckus. I don't believe they've got Siege Gang Commander anymore. Really kind of got obsoleted with Sling Gang Lieutenant. That card is just merciless. The fact that you can sack those Goblins without investing the mana just makes it inevitable when you get enough Goblins that your opponent will not have long. And it looks like we've got 2 Cavern of Souls still. I'm not sure. They might be having some difficulty with the webcam. Maybe an audio issue. Does seem like the gameplay going significantly slower than you'd expect. 1 damage coming in from a Munitions Expert. And this likely cannot be blocked. Hoping that Deputy of Detention would block and then, like, I don't know, cycling Gem Palm Incinerator perhaps? No, there's no red mana for that, so I'm not sure what we're seeing here. Perhaps it's just a difficult decision because of the mana base. That might be the time as well. And Karakas coming down for a Mog War Marshal. Karakas actually a pretty scary card to have main deck here against most, as their entire game plan, well, not their entire game plan, but one of their biggest payoffs is getting down an Elish Norn, which is going to be significantly harder to have stick around when you're dealing with a active Karakas. We've got Skirk Prospector, sacrificing the Mogg War Marshal in order to cast Craterhoof Behemoth, and Goblins has quite the quite the creature base now. Worth noting that Cratermaker can be used thanks to the Skirk Prospector at any time. It would be a 2-for-1. One of those tokens would have to go in the graveyard, but those were cheap enough to come by anyways. So Heather losing that Aether Vial, but still amassing quite a board presence. And it looks like Abrupt Decay taking out the Skirk Prospector. And that looks like a Riverboa. What is that? Oh, a Sylvan Library. There we go. So Sylvan Library coming down. No life totals on screen. I'm going to see if I can follow along with those. Let's see here. I believe Nick has taken one. Goblin Ringleader being cast. Finding a War Chief and a Mogg War Marshal, and perhaps a Slingang Lieutenant. Might have been that last one. The Aether Vial should be going to the bottom of the library, not to the graveyard. And everything turning sideways. I believe this is going to be 6 damage coming in, assuming that a token ends up getting blocked. I didn't see a token die, so perhaps no blocks? We may be looking at 12 points of life for Nick. And a Sanctum Prelate, which isn't really great versus Goblins. I mean, what do you even name? Like, yeah, I really don't know. Like that, I don't know that card is going to do very much in this matchup. Nick just making the best of the options that he has here. It's a body. It can block 1/1s. For now, till they get bigger. So one of the things with Goblins is, while it doesn't have a ton of lords similar to Merfolk and some of the other tribal decks, it does have a couple. So you got Goblin Trashmaster is a very dangerous card, and the fact that he's a lord on top of it is just crazy. So you can sack a Goblin to destroy an artifact, giving Goblins just tremendous game versus a variety of different decks, taking out opposing Aether Vials, equipment, things like Batterskull, Umezawa's Jite, things that historically have been a real legitimate way to combat the Goblin Horde. Instead, they can just clear that out of the way with no mana investment, and of course, pillaging things like Arkham's Astrolabe, nothing wrong with that. We have a 3-mana Goblin War Chief. For a 1-mana Mogg War Marshal. And we've got a whole bunch of hasty Goblins. Goblins generally want to turn sideways Let's see how this goes. Bunch of 1/1s. Everything but the War Chief. War Chief being deemed too valuable. Not looking to trade that for an opposing 2/2. Nick thinking over his blocks. I don't know if he can afford to take 9 here. I think you have to block some tokens. I think he's probably going to be taking 7 and be moving down to 5. Yeah, Deputy of Detention is a 1/3. So you can get a couple of the 1/1s off the board. Actually going to trade the Sanctum Prelate for the Goblin Ringleader. So I believe Nick's sitting at 6 here. Facing down 6 Goblins. Not an ideal situation. Heather fetching. And going to go ahead and clear the Deputy of Detention. Getting back the Aether Vial. So 6 damage on board. Nick at 6, now 5 life. After fetching. And he's going to need something good here. Like Plague Engineer good. Yeah, Elish Norn, really just like a grown-up Plague Engineer, just -2/-2. I mean, it's crazy how good Plague Engineer is. Like for 3 mana, it's like half an Elish Norn. It's a pretty good effect. At least when you're playing against tribal decks. Like the reality is like half of an Elish Norn is pretty much the same as an Elish Norn in many instances. Like if a creature's a 1/1 and it's dying, like it wouldn't have mattered if it got -2/-2. So in this type of matchup, I mean, my goodness, Plague Engineer is absolutely horrifying. Gotta feel like it'd be coming down pretty quick if Nick had it, though. He may be in chump block with Noble Hierarch territory. And even if he does that, it'd be pretty close. Like he'd be down to just 1. Eternal Witness bringing back Fauna Shaman, and Fauna Shaman being cast. All right, we got a game here. We got a game. It's going to be very close. It'll depend on what Heather has to go along with her current board. If Nick gets an untap step, this could be disastrous for her. Oh, that's graphic. Slingang Lieutenant. That is just very much death. All of the death. Doesn't matter how she does it. She could just sack her whole board. It'd still do it. So, Heather picking up game 1. Slingang Lieutenant, just a filthy magic card. Allowing all of your goblins to be mini tendrils of agonies. They lose 1, you gain 1. Brutal. Brutal way to finish that game. Nick, so close, just a glimmer of hope at the end, and then Heather expertly dashing it on the rocks with that Slingang Lieutenant. I don't know if she top decked it or she was just saving it for the proper time for just maximum emotional damage there. As if Nick untapped, I think he actually gets it. Like, with that much mana, yeah, he totally wins. So he just discards a creature, goes to get Elesh Norn, discards Elesh Norn to go get the loyal retainers, and then just gets an Elesh Norn. And then from there, Goblins is pretty much cold. I mean, it is much better, I guess, in that instance than Plague Engineer, in that it's way... Is it that much harder to remove? No, because he's got the Karakas. I guess that's a really complicated situation. He's probably favored after he completely does a one-sided Wrath of God. All right, a little bit of sideboarding there. And Nick leading out with a Savannah into Giver of Runes. A card that I believe it was Nick that actually made a pretty savage play with Giver of Runes. Or at least one that his opponent didn't see coming, with Dryad Arbor. A Dryad Arbor kind of surprise blocking a creature. And then later on, getting a Wasteland targeting it, and able to keep it around even longer, as Giver of Runes can give protection from colorless. Wasteland is a colorless effect, so Dryad Arbor, a hell of a magic card when paired with Giver of Runes. Hopefully that's not this game. It'd be terrible if I just spoiled that. Windswept Heath. I mean, very likely finding Dryad Arbor in a number of games when you're making sure you don't get KO'd by Lackey. But it looks like he's going to be totally fine. Relying on Giver of Runes here as a blocker. And now Fauna Shaman. Fauna Shaman, so dangerous. We had Survival of the Fittest. Was a legacy pillar for a really long time. I mean, that was just like one of the pillars of the format. Very, very good deck. One of the few times that I actually didn't buy what I perceived to be the best deck in the format. Toward the end of Survival of the Fittest reign, I just actually was completely confident that they were going to end up banning it. Once Vengevine started, I was just like, wow, like I am not even going to bother buying these just because I just have zero doubt that they're going to end up nerfing it. And they did in a big way. They ended up going after the survival itself, and the format has been just fine without it, to be honest. You can still do similar stuff. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about how large the legacy card pool is it could be wrong. It could be a mistake that they banned survival. Doesn't matter. Format's still sweet anyways. There are so many cards. It's not like in Standard where they end up banning a card like Oko or Artifact Lands, and then half the cards in the format don't seem to make any sense anymore. Legacy is so deep that, you could just mind wipe, pretend a card doesn't exist. Format's still awesome. Very few exceptions to that. We've got a Pashalik Mons, which is going to be kind of a nightmare here. But Quirin Ranger along with Fauna Shaman could also really wrap things up pretty quick. So let's see how this is actually going to play out. Will Heather have some type of graveyard response? Elesh Norn getting ready to go to the bin. So Elesh Norn in hand. And this should do it. This is how easy it can be, as long as Heather doesn't have some type of response. Elish Norn being discarded to go get Loyal Retainers. And now Queer and Ranger doesn't have the best of untaps. It'll untap. Oh, I guess we got Giver of Runes. Is going to give protection to the Fauna Shaman. And now Loyal Retainers coming in and wiping the board. 4 damage. He's going to be able to take something out here. Oh, I guess just all going to face and not even going to bother with that. So Heather not finding a immediate Caracas. And the +2/+2 actually very significant when you've got other stuff lying around like your Queer and Ranger and Giver of Runes. I mean, that is very close to lethal right there. But pretty difficult to build back your mana base from there, or your creature base from there. They can potentially have a Caracas, bounce the Elish Norn, but again, it can just get tossed into the bin to go get a Eternal Witness, to go get the Loyal Retainer back to do it again. Yeah, Loyal Retainer is one of those cards that took a massive hit when it got reprinted. I'm going to check right now and see what that card's actually at. I haven't thought about the pricing on it in quite some time. I love Portal 3 Kingdoms. It was one of the few times in Magic where the foreign cards were worth so much less. Yeah, Loyal Retainer's just in the toilet. $45. There was a Masterpiece version as well, which is probably about the same. And then the foil Commander's Arsenal one can be had for under $30. That card was megabucks before the Commander's Arsenal reprint. But Portal 3 Kingdoms, for a long time, the foreign versions of especially tournament playable cards were worth so much more when you're talking about Japanese or Russian, Korean, any of these more difficult to get languages, just because they were shorter print runs. And Portal 3 Kingdoms was the exact opposite of that. The English print run was minuscule. So like an Italian Legends, I guess I have that backwards. Italian Legends is worth way less, and then the... Sorry guys, it's super late here. I'm going to come back to that thought later. It's interesting how the print run size ends up playing into all of that. We've got a Noble Hierarch blocking and dying for the team as Goblin Lackey is denied connecting with Nick's face. However, an Aether Vial also gets added in here. Now a Green Sun Zenith. X equals 1. This feels pretty dire. Getting a Dryad Arbor. One of Goblin's main plans is to actually go after your mana base. So losing the Noble Hierarch for no cost and now a Wasteland taking out the Dryad Arbor. Oh, this is looking really bad. Another Goblin Lackey could have been a lot worse for Nick. A Birds of Paradise. Another sacrificial blocker. I don't even think you bother blocking at this point. I think you just have to cross your fingers and hope that it's not going to be Matron into Muckus. Oh, nothing put in. What is this? Goblin Lackey with nothing to put in? 2 of them connect? Oh, Nick's got to feel terrible about that first block. That'd be hilarious if this was just some mind games from Heather. That is not going to be the case, but we've got a foil Plague Engineer. It gets cleared with Lightning Bolt. Those lackeys weren't doing anything anyways. He didn't have any goblins to put in. The Bolt finding a Plague Engineer as opposed to the Bird. Birds of Paradise, probably the most bolted creature in the history of Magic, and another Goblin Lackey. 3 mana for a Eternal Witness, getting back that Plague Engineer. Things are ramping up to look kind of ugly here. Pashalic Bonds would be a nice answer. Goblin Crater Maker. All right, we got a game here. This 2 damage from this Crater Maker, super important. Oh, holy aggro Batman. We've got a Matron being put in response to the Goblin trigger for a Muxus, despite the fact that there is a Plague Engineer in hand. So Muxus's job here is going to be to find something to kill this bird. Finding just a Matron. And I guess that's going to go get a Crater Maker. Muckus is still gigantic. Now, when he loses his goblins, he will get smaller. Grabbing Mogg War Marshal. I am very surprised by this. There's the Plague Engineer. Everything dies. Ooh, Pyrokinesis. So Heather already had the answer. Pyrokinesis clears the bird. And now Muxus hits for 6. Sorry about that, guys. Hope that wasn't too loud. Six into an empty board. Fauna Shaman. Letting the Mogg War Marshal die. And only going to be sending with the Muxus here. Oh, I guess Nick's low enough on life that he had to chump block. This is an older game. We're working on getting everyone's life totals very clearly on camera for you guys, and that is going to do it. So Muxus takes it down. The Fauna Shaman forced to chump block the giant goblin. I feel like that guy would have been fine if he was a 1/1. I am not going to lie. Like, he is absolutely devastating when he comes down. The advantage generated is just so often game-winning that it's going to be interesting to see how many copies do people end up playing. You know, is this Turbo Muxus plan going to be the way you go? Do you just jam like 4 copies of that guy and hope to connect with Lackey for the win on turn 2? Hope you guys enjoyed that one as much as I did. We will see you back for some more real soon. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.